So again, we were looking at the 10 points. We just want to apologize for the break in transmission. We are continuing. We will just backtrack just a little bit, looking at the 10 points which really cause conflict or the major causes of conflict. The first one we looked at was when couples just move in together, to live together. Another point we looked at is when it's the birth of a new child, a birth of a child in the family. You're not used to three persons and one may carry the load and the other one isn't, and so it brings along stress. And the third one we were just about looking at was dealing with teenagers.
Yes, and we were saying that with teenagers, you can have challenges. Of course, teenagers do have their own issues.
Yes.
And the tension, there can be tension in the family during that period. And we were saying that during the childbearing age, in the relationship, you have a lot of tension. And there are a lot of reasons for this. We may not be able to go through all of the nuances here, but that's one of the issues. So we are also saying, too, that when there are changes in values and in ideas of the partners, yes, there can also be tension in the relationship as well. And changes in the family situation, like moving to a new house. If you're working far away from home, then when there are financial, changes, new debts, and or if the salary is cut, a number of these things can create challenges.
Like the situation we are now in at the moment.
Yes.
This virus, all that it has brought upon us. These have caused conflict in many homes, and hence the reason we would really like to reach out to those families who are experiencing difficulties to just link up with us, listen to us, try to use some of the pointers that we are sharing with you so that it can alleviate some of the problems that you are having.
Yeah, so far what we are just mentioning here is just some of the causes of conflict. We're not going to go into all of the causes and explain each of them, but we will focus on what to actually do with conflict. However, we'll mention a few other causes, like what about individuals and house chores? It can create conflict.
That's another one. For some families, it's maybe quite easy because the husband is accustomed of helping at home, maybe especially in families where you had only boys. They were accustomed of doing all the house chores. And so they're used to doing those things. Coming into their home, they practice those very same things. But there are families where the boys would be allowed to maybe, I'm not just, hammering on the men, but usually that's how it happens. They are allowed to live their life and to socialize with their friend, and very little of house chores are given to them or they are allowed to do.
Yes.
So with that habit, when they move to their new home with their wife, they carry along the same thing, and we know all habits die hard. So because of that, they would not be doing much of the house chores, whereas the wife would be the one carrying most of it.
And it becomes a burden because if both persons are working outside of the home, then you need a fair share of the burden, right? Or the burden needs to be distributed. And when that doesn't happen, it creates tension in the relationship, especially in this 21st century.
Both parties go to work maybe at the same time, come back at the same time.
Yeah. There needs to be a kind of helping in the home. When this doesn't happen, you have tension. There's also the problem of not being able to handle an argument.
That's the problem.
Yes, when people either overexpress themselves or underexpress an issue, especially those aspects that lead to name calling and contempt, it can create challenges. There's also difficulty in when it comes to individuals who have different communication styles. Like some persons might be outgoing, conversational, and the other person might be that type that doesn't like to talk. And then, although you may have been attracted to that individual because of their calm personality, but after a while that person becomes a little bit too quiet for you, and it creates a challenge. And you want to see the person a little bit more conversational, and everything that you try is not working, it creates tension.
Yes, and I'm sure you would agree with me. As you listen to some of the things that we're saying, everybody may not be experiencing the same problem, but you may have experienced one
type or
two.
the other. Yes.
So we will be giving you some tips as to how to mitigate against this. But there's another problem that may cause conflict is emotional abandonment. Yeah. This is like a disconnected couple. Just think of that you are living with someone and it's like it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, they're always too busy or they're preoccupied with the children. They spend inordinate hours at work, and you feel
they hardly express appreciation.
To you. Yeah, you feel abandoned. You feel abandoned, and then it can create tension. You feel lonely in the family, and that's why sometimes you can come to spouses, especially wives, when you get to the home, you feel abandoned, and you can get a sour face when you come.
And you have not said a word or have done anything
to
wrong.
them. Yeah, and you can't understand. Yeah, all because they feel abandoned, and then it creates the challenge. Then there's also what infidelity. That is a big issue.
This is a big issue, infidelity. Now, it is really in the picture, infidelity. One of the main ones that causes big problem. Just think about it. Your spouse is not being faithful. Now, God knew this very well, and that's why he said that
we should not commit,
thou shalt not commit adultery. Yes. You are settled with someone. Yes. You're married to someone. It is a painful thing to have another relationship.
Yes. In fact, people feel very violated. When they feel violated when there's infidelity in the relationship. So we have to be very careful. Yeah. Of course, in another session, we can address those issues if you have infidelity issues, how to deal with it. But there's also issues about sex as well. Sometimes you have issues about frequency. Sometimes there is the challenge of what your spouse may want you to do or your partner wants you to do.
And you may not feel comfortable doing those things.
So this can raise challenges in the relationship. So in essence, what we are saying here is that there are a number of causes. But if you're going to be able to handle this, there needs to be an attitude in both of you, a willingness to negotiate.
Because you must agree to negotiate.
Yes, because the first impulse when there is conflict is to be angry, and most persons want to push their point. They feel that they are right, and they are arguing to maintain that they are right. And they may hold to that point sometimes at any cost. When that happens, it is very difficult for you to find a peaceful resolution to the situation. But when both parties are stubborn and they stick to the guns, it is very difficult to solve problems. So the important thing, therefore, is to have an attitude that allows you to want to negotiate. You want to listen to your spouse, and you want to seek to understand what is creating the problem. Both of you will have an opportunity to talk. Both of you will have an opportunity to explain the challenges that you are going through. And then if that happens and you approach it in a very congenial way, yes, it will lend itself to the solution of the problem. And that's what we're going to be talking a little bit more about.
Yes. Now, for some problems, you need to just take a pause and think about it. Some of them, if you figure it out, it does not even worth fighting over.
Yes, that's true. Could you imagine your wife says she wants a curtain? The house is painted in cracker stone or something like that. And she says that the curtain, maybe she needs a pitch curtain, but you feel, as a man, perhaps it should be blue. And men are almost colorblind, right? Colorblind. And then there's a wrangle over just a curtain. One say a blue and the other one says a peach. There's no need to fight over a simple matter like that.
And so that's very true. Some problems you can solve all by yourself. You see what has happened, something needs to be fixed instead of another one is just, quarreling or fussing over it, then you just fix it because it can be solved without a problem.
Yeah, you just withdraw, and some situation is just a matter of withdrawing, think through the process, and make some adjustments.
No, not all problems are that easy. Some of them you need confrontation. Now, when I say confrontation, don't get me wrong, it's not this fighting and this war. You need to address the problem. You need to try to separate the problem from the person when you're going to do this as well. So if the problem is fixing the pipeline, do not accuse your husband or your spouse of not doing this because he or she, does not care or they are insensitive or they prefer other persons than persons at their home, and so they find themselves doing for others. If you are doing that, you are attacking the person. But we want you to separate the person from the problem.
Yes. In fact, the issue here is that sometimes when conflicts happen and you make an attempt to resolve the conflict, there are some persons, what they do is that they attack the other person's character instead of addressing the problem. And you have to make a distinction between a problem and the individual. Let me give one example. Let us just assume that you asked me to pay the bill, and for whatever reason I forgot it. And these days, maybe not now in the COVID season, but let's assume that they cut off the electricity. And then you come to me and, tell me, what happened? You gave me to pay the bill and so on. I'm very careless, I'm insensitive, I have very little regard for the family. That's not addressing the problem. You are attacking me, okay? You have not listened to the situation. I have not shared with you why the thing happened, and then you're just attacking me. Where the simple solution might just be to go and pay the bills, okay? But now I'm being accused, so the problem has grown much more than just paying the bills to an attack on my character, an assassination of my character. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of emotional damage that has taken place. This is a much bigger issue than just self-paying the bills.
Very much so. So this is just a simple example, but yes, you as a family, as the various problems arise, you can figure it out and see if this is one that you need to address in the way that we have just said.
Yes, so the issue then is when you have something that has created a challenge, rather than attacking the person, mm-hmm, then try to have a positive communication, or try to confront the situation more gracefully. Mm-hmm. And we're going to share with you a little bit, how you can do this. So how you can, when something is offensive, how do you approach it and resolve it in a very amicable way? That's what we want to talk about.
Now, you will agree with me that there are some persons who have anger problems.
Yes.
And so very often when something happens in the family, the way they approach is in an angry way. What I would advise to persons who have this anger issue, you need to just cool off when something has happened, hold back a bit, rethink before you speak. Calm yourself.
Yeah.
And after you are calm, you're sure you have, composed yourself, then you will try to address the situation.
Issue. In fact, both of you must be calm, because sometimes the person creating the offense might be angry, and they may have, individual characteristics or traits that are creating that problem.
Yeah.
But how you affect the other person is also going to, hurt the emotion of the individual, and you may not be able to approach the conversation in a peaceful way. So you'd want to know that both of you are calm, both of you have cooled down, and you have each other's permission. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I always tell people, especially when I'm dealing with conflict resolution in my office, I tell them the very first thing that you need to do is to get each other's permission. Cool yourself down. Take a time out. and cool yourself down. And there are some steps, and we've shared that before, some steps that you can take to cool down. But maybe for the purpose of persons who may just be joining us for the first time, just a quick little thing here. If you're angry, do not say anything and do not do anything. Just, when I say do anything, don't say anything, don't try to fix anything. Just pause a while and then withdraw from the situation and redirect your energy to doing something else, something wholesome and something relaxing.
Or you may just say to your partner, you don't think you are able to deal with
that
situation now.
Yes. So,
just give you some time. And that time you're asking for is really to cool
yourself, yes. So when you go out now, you process the situation in your mind and try to figure out why are you upset about this thing. And you might just discover as you process. Now there's a whole presentation which is called the three triangle perspective that teaches you how to, negotiate when something to be so angry that it almost led to violence. But that's another kind of presentation. I'll address that a little later. But simply process the situation in your mind and then find out why you're angry at this. And by the time you start thinking why you're upset over that little thing, by the time you process that, you might just realize there's no need for you to be so blown over that situation.
Yeah.
And then as you do that now, you will now tell yourself, listen, I want to speak to my wife about this thing, or I want to speak to my husband about this thing, and we need to do it in a manner so that this thing does not happen a second time. So you try to confront your spouse gracefully, tactfully, and that would require some level of wisdom. It would require some knowledge of your speaking rules, your listening rules, and your responding rules.
Yeah.
You need to be patient, you need to be humble at that time, and you need to follow some of the tips that we are going to share with you.
And a little obedience from God's word, which says that our words should be seasoned with grace.
Yes.
So if we season our words with grace and we are dealing with a situation, there's no way to go wrong.
In fact, remember the Bible tells us that there should not be clamoring and bitter feelings and
there should be forgiveness.
Yes. We should not have this attitude. In fact, much of the problem of much of the challenge of resolving a problem has to do with our attitude, or what we call the individual factors. Okay, you've been angry, unable to control, how you express yourself. To a large degree, it has to do with that. So if you manage your ecology, your internal environment, you might just be able to solve many of these issues. So if you are now, so what we are saying here now, cool yourself down, you are no longer angry, and then you have each other's permission, so you set time for the two of you to discuss the matter.
Yeah.
Now you are at the table, and you are now discussing the matter. Okay, so what other things we're going to do? First, check your motive.
Yeah. Will your words hurt or will it help? What you're just about to say to your partner or even to your child, will it hurt or will it help? Will it bring up, will it cause healing or wholeness and maybe oneness too? Or will it cause further isolation? Now, that's not what you want for your family.
Yeah, you didn't
so think it through.
Yes, you didn't come here to attack. You didn't come to win. What you came to do is to sit down to understand each other, try to understand the problem so you can arrive at the most possible way of resolving the issue. So you need to check your attitude. Make sure that you are not there for revenge, okay? And you are confronting lovingly. Be careful how you speak. Be careful how you listen, and be careful how you speak.
Very true.
In other words, at the back of your mind, you should be saying, I care about you, I respect you, and I want you to respect me. I want to know how you feel, and it is not about winning an argument. It is about getting down to the bottom of it.
The solution.
Yes.
Another thing you need to do when you are listening is that you need to be sensitive to where your spouse is coming from. Be sensitive to where they're coming from, what they're saying, from which angle that they're seeing, what is happening. So we need to be so careful and be sensitive to yourself.
Yes. So remember now that the two of you are sitting to discuss the problem, you need to do active listening. And remember what we said about active listening. It is not listening to give an answer. It is listening to understand what the person is saying. So you are concerned. You have to put aside your own views and emotions on that matter. Don't try to interrupt the person and tell the person you lie. What you say is not true. That's not how. No. At that point in time, you're not so much concerned about making a response and judging the person. What you're concerned about is trying to understand the person's point of view. And you need to put aside your emotions on that matter and give the person a free chance to express themselves. And they say try not to allow it to go too long, maybe about 10 minutes each person. So you listen to your spouse, you seek to understand his or her point of view, and if you are...
Without interrupting.
Right, you may ask a question to clarify, or when the person has spoken, you may mirror, say, okay, am I hearing you saying this? Am I to understand that is what you are saying? So in that way, you have the person get a... In fact, you let the person know what you are understanding so that they can analyze what you are saying against what they are saying to see if they have been well understood.
Yes, and as you listen to the individual whom you are speaking to, maybe the child or to your husband, because we are looking at family, so I do not want to leave out the children. It may be that he or she is upset about something that has happened at work. And if it is the older one or maybe an older child in the family, and, the stress of work has come into the home with that individual. So if you can cipher or you can see or understand the backdrop from which that person is coming from, or the way they're behaving, you are better able to assist the person in regulating that kind of behavior.
In fact, for that matter, it is like understanding the context from which your spouse is coming. So if because sometimes the challenge that happened in the family it might not just be, the genesis might not be in the home. You may have been under stress because of work, and there are other factors that may have affected you. And so you need to be understanding of your spouse. You need to understand the situation that is confronting the individual. Now, so as we start to talk, so as we are saying, one person is speaking at a time. So you are now letting your spouse speak. You are listening actively to the individual, trying to understand them, follow them. The next thing is when your turn comes to speak.
Stick to the issue.
Yeah, you may have to.
Very often we like to jump back on the past. We bring the past because, something at the back there was quite interesting and you had your right, so you bring it forward. But let bygones be bygones. Stick to the issue at hand.
Yeah, so
communicate your side of the issue, not another one. The one that's at hand.
Yeah, so do
not react.
Yeah, so don't tell the person, oh, but yesterday you did that and that. No, you are listening to you have listened to the individual. At this point in time, when you are about to speak, do not attack what the person has said. You are not trying to cross-examine your spouse at that time. You have to give your side of the story and stick to the issue that you have on the table, and don't bring other things into it. Don't bring up several issues. Don't save up, a whole set of problems, and then now that you have the opportunity to talk, then you are bringing everything in. Okay, so let us take a few of the folks and just, thank them again for following us.
Yes, and at this time also we'd like those of you online to like our page and please share.
Okay, so we have quite a number of folks again who are logging in. We want to speak about, thank Keisha, Justin, there is Alberta, Harvey, Cynthia Clark, there's Marlene Morgan, Ulla Elibox from Barbados, there's Paula Phillips here, there's Josephine Headley. We are happy, Sister Headley, that you're here. And Patty Smith, there's Marcus Ogis, Macarius. Yes, thank you, Macarius.
Good night.
Yes, Sister Jamie Johnson, of course, from Vanna. So we're so happy that you're logging on. Yes, thanks. So we were saying that
please like our page and share.
Yes, so we are saying that you need to focus on the problem rather than on the person. That's what we're trying to establish. Yes. And you need to avoid the name calling and stick with the issue and start the discussion in a wholesome way. Focus on the behavior we are saying rather than the character, and using the I communication instead of the you communication. So speak. Now we've shared the I communication with you. We don't want to go through it again this evening, but essentially what we are saying is rather than accusing the person, you can say, I feel frustrated when you don't let me know, when you don't let me know how, well, let me say this way, I feel very frustrated that I was not picked up. Let me put it this way. I was not picked up. I would have appreciated if I could have been called, so that I could have made different plans or something like this. So in that way, you say how you feel, you say what the problem is, you say what you would wish to accomplish and what you want the individual to do. So using the I statement is a better way of speaking. So remember, there's the proper listening rule in conflict resolution, and then there's a proper speaking rule. Avoid, I think the biggest issue is when the person is talking to you and you're trying to attack the individual, or when you are talking, you are so angry that you are just blaming the person and judging the individual for the action without having first listened to the individual. And even when you have listened to the person, after they have spoken, you should not be attacking the individual. What you need to do is to give your side of the problem. Let me see if I can illustrate that a little. Let us assume you have children. Maybe if we look at how you deal with a child, it will explain the thing here. Let us say if you have two children in the home and they are having conflict, you ask them to go and resolve the conflict themselves, but it's not going away, and they're still misbehaving. You call them and say, listen, both of you sit here. I want to hear what you have to say. So you give each person a chance to express themselves and say what they have to say, while the other person is listening. And you tell them, listen, don't butt in, do not interrupt the person, don't tell them they lie, even if you think that they're telling an untruth. Listen to what the person has to say. Then after that person is finished, then you let the other person speak. Then you don't want the person to respond to what the first person has said and say, oh, but Daddy, well, he said that, but that's not true. No, what I want is your side of the story. Give me what happened from your perspective. And then after they both have spoken, then you said, okay, now that you have spoken, then you have heard this person's side, you understand why they behaved the way they did. Now, what do you think is the problem? Then you identify the problem. And then after you have identified the problem, you ask them to come up with possible solutions to the problem. So that's what we are talking about.
So now that we have given you some of the causes, some of the way that you need to approach, the next thing that we want you to do is don't jump to conclusions.
Yes.
Don't jump to conclusions. Give your spouse the benefit of the doubt. Don't put words in the person's mouth or to look for reasons to assume the will.
Yes.
You need not to jump to that conclusion. Make sure you understand what they are saying before you answer them.
And that is why the speaking role is so important. This is what we are talking about. So make sure that you have listened, make sure you clarify, make sure you have understood where the person is coming from. And once you have that, you are in the position now to figure out what the problem is, and then you come up with the solution. So just before we wrap up a bit, because of course we had a little break in transmission, so We are almost out of time, yes. But you identify the problem. Now, I'll tell you what happens sometimes. When somebody comes to me in counseling, I listen to the issue. Both of the persons speak. They each give their side. I try to avoid the crosstalk and then reaction to what the other person has to say. Then after each person has spoken, then you try to identify the problem. What kind of problem are you hearing there? Is it a communication problem? Is it an attitude issue, interpersonal relational issue? Is it a sex problem? Is it a money problem? So you try to identify what the problem is. Okay? And then after you have identified the problem, then you can now address the solution. Of course, there's one other thing that we normally ask them to do, and that is wherever there's a conflict, you need to take an objective view of the situation, because both of you might be contributing to the problem. You may think it is only the individual, the other person, but both of you might be contributing to the problem. Let us say if I am harsh, I may have started the offense, okay, and I spoke very harshly to you, and that may not be very nice.
I respond in kind.
But how about if you responded in kind? You see? So the problem will be exacerbated because of how you responded, how I spoke and how you responded. So both of us. So you need to sit and ask yourself, begin by asking yourself, what have you contributed to the problem? Take an objective analysis of yourself. What do I need to improve in that relationship for things to go better? Then what exactly is my spouse doing that is causing the problem? Is the person aggressive? Is the person passively aggressive?
Do they give the silent treatment?
The silent treatment, yes.
Are they unforgiving?
Yes.
Because they like to bring back everything that has happened?
Yes.
Is that person violent? Does he get angry quickly?
Yes.
All of these you need to be able to identify in a problem.
Yes. So to find out exactly what is happening, and when that person gives you that treatment, how do you respond? So when you are able to identify this, you will now be able, if you are objective about yourself, and then you look at the thing and assess it properly from your spouse's perspective, you might be able to discover exactly what is causing the problem. And when that has been discovered, and then you find out how you respond to this problem when the person behaves in that particular way. Once you identify that, you might be able to identify the cause and the trigger, and also what is exacerbating the problem. Once you do that, now you are in a better position to solve the problem. I hope I'm very clear here, because this is very important, especially if you're going to have to resolve the problem on your own. You have to be objective. Do not think that that one person is to be blamed. Look at the thing objectively. Find out what are you contributing to the problem. Assess the thing properly. Distance yourself and assess it objectively. What am I doing that is either attracting the problem or exacerbating the problem? What is it that my spouse is doing? What specifically are they doing to me, or how are they behaving? What is it that is the real problem? For example, is it that when I tell the person, okay, tell me when you're going out, and then when I tell them that they're feeling angry, I need to find out if the way I'm saying it am I using the best speaking rule to say that? Because I might be telling you the truth, but how I'm saying it, they might be offensive to you.
Yes,
You get what I'm saying there? So that is why it is very important for you to be objective. Most times when you have problems, both parties are contributing to the problem, and you need to be able to be objective enough to see both sides. If you find that is very difficult, you need help.
Yep.
You need help. So I want to quickly remind you that in spite of all what we are saying here to you, I want you to remember that as human beings, we have our frailties, we are sinful, and having good ideas about a relationship does not mean that you'll be able to carry out what you are hearing. You need the grace of God. The sinner is not capable of bringing himself to do the good things that he knows. In fact, somebody says it this way: emotion overrides reason. So even if you know a lot of the things that you need to do, when you get angry, it just gets kicked out of the door and your old self begins to surface. That is why you need the grace of God. Unless the Lord builds the house, the labor in vain who build it. And we need to remember that good intentions doesn't change individuals. It is the grace of God that changes us. That is why the Bible says, if any man be in whom? In Christ Jesus, is a new creature. All things are passed away, and behold, all things are become new. Yeah. How does God change you? He gives you a new heart. He gives you a new mind. He places His Holy Spirit in you. And the Holy Spirit is able now to give you power to execute the new desires that God is giving to you. That is why I want to encourage couples and family members to grow in Christ. It is as you grow in Christ, He changes your attitude towards each other. Listen, the human heart is capable of carrying out the greatest atrocity, you know. Unless God brings this heart under control, we can do a lot of we can do the strangest of things to one another. We need to allow ourselves to come under the control of God. Make Christ central to your relationship. Unless God is central to your relationship, you may have the mechanics. You may understand the technical know-how. You might be skilled in your interpersonal relations, but you might just discover you are not always able to bring them into practice because of the inhibition in your own heart. And the best solution to this is Jesus Christ. So, just before we close, let us take a little time again to thank some of our friends who have been logged in. Okay, we have Margaret Gavelis, of course, one of our friends who just got baptized. So I want to say to her, I'm just delighted that she's there with us. And again, congratulations on making your decision. There's
Natalie John, we have Deborah Francis.
Francois, yes.
Yes. Justin Samuel, we have David Alexander from St. Croix.
Yes.
We have Alfred Etienne.
There's Melva Etienne. That's my niece, so I'm happy. Thomas Sharman, my brother, was listening.
Yes,
there's Leah Harris, and there's Lovelia Nurse. We are just happy. And then there's Dr. Glasgow. We are grateful.
Yes.
And
Carlton.
Yes.
We are delighted to have you with us tonight.
Yes.
Please like our page.
Yes. So I was talking a little bit about the whole issue of resolving your conflict. Of course, the following week, next Monday, God willing, we'll be addressing it in further details, and I will address how you actually negotiate especially when you have difficult individuals. I will share with you how to negotiate. But once you have identified the problem, define what type of problem it is. That's what I spoke to you about. And find out what is the communication problem. Is it an insecurity issue? Is it a jealousy problem? Is it infidelity? Is it money? Is it sex? Is it interpersonal skills?
Or maybe in-law.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's another problem.
Your in-law.
Problem. In-law can be outlawed.
Yes, Then brainstorm the solution.
Yes.
Yeah, once both parties have understood each other's perspective, you have understood each other's feelings over the situation, then you can work out the solution. Come up with a number of possible solutions, and then look at all the stakeholders. Everybody will be affected by the decision, and make sure that you choose the decision that gives both of you satisfaction, and that will bring a level of satisfaction to all your stakeholders. Once that solution is decided on, of course, stick to it. Stick to it, and write down what the agreement is, and make it as if it were a contract. A contract. Now, once you have decided on a matter, you need to bring it to execution, because if not, you will find that you all have discussed matters, but nothing is being resolved, and then it will lead to another kind of problem. what we call stonewalling. But again, we will talk to this issue a little later. Now,
what I want to inform you, listeners, just we're going a little outside of what we were saying. We need you to go to the FB page, the Family Conversation, to participate in the question survey.
Yes, so we have some questions on the page. So please go to that page, answer the questions. The Family Life Conversation page.
Family
Conversation page, and then participate in the question and the survey that we have. Now, quickly, I want to end by saying this. When you are resolving a conflict, do not only address the issue, but also remember there's the emotional resolve.
Yep.
Okay, let me use what I spoke about in terms of the bills, right? If you ask me to pay the bills, I didn't pay it, and then you call me insensitive and tell me, that I lower your credit rating and all of that, and then I paid the bill. The paying the bill might resolve the issue, but what about the emotional damage? What about the name calling and the insult that was hurled at me? This needs to be addressed as well. So you must remember, in dealing with an issue, especially if there has been judgmental statement and name calling, there's the emotional resolve that needs to take place.
Yes.
It is the emotional resolve that enables the relationship to move forward and feel and give closure to the situation. If that is not done, then there will be lingering problems and there's bitter feelings. Yes, unforgiveness might step in and there will be real big issues. So if a conflict erupts over the failure of one party to pay the bills, then the surface resolve may be, as I said, paying the bill, but there is the emotional component that also needs to be addressed. I want to revisit this in because many persons believe that they have solved a problem when they have addressed the facts of the issue and they have left the emotional aspect unresolved. Okay? And this is why you can have cold treatment or silent treatment. How they call it, the silent storm or the silent terrorism in the relationship. But anyway, so the following Monday, we will address how to restore a relationship that has been broken. If there was conflict and the relationship is broken, we will talk about how to resolve it. How you move from conflict to resolution. Yeah. And of course, the following week we will look at the hesitance of resolution. Like if some people find it difficult to forgive, they find it very difficult to forgive, and then we will tell you how to deal with that if you notice there's hesitancy in forgiving and starting all over. So that's what we're going to have in the following week. So I hope that you have sought to answer the questions that we submitted to you, and that you have given us some very nice feedback on this. Okay, I want to just remind you again what the Word of God says. In Ephesians chapter 4, 31 to 33, it says, get rid of bitterness, of rage, of anger, of brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. But be kind, what else? Compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ forgave you. Yeah. One of the reasons why you need to give the relationship a second chance is you need to relate to each other the same way that God is relating to you. Okay, it's very important. Settle your conflict quickly. You know what the Bible says? The Bible says that if you come before the altar to offer your gift and you remember that someone has fought against you, you should try to go and reconcile to the person. Mm-hmm. In the mind of God, conflict should be resolved very quickly. And many persons allow the conflict to linger. Some of them remain upset and bitter for weeks. Mm-hmm. This is not healthy for a relationship. You don't want God to treat you that way. You should not treat each other that way.
But the Bible says, do not let the sun go down upon your wrath.
Yes. And then it also says that we need to reconcile our relationship, especially with our spouses, because it can hinder our prayer. Yes. So we need to make it a pointed thing. Look at this. If God asks us to forgive our enemies, how much more for forgiving your spouse. You need to give each other a second chance. Of course, when we talk about forgiveness and restoring the relationship, we'll be able to explain what is involved in forgiveness and how a relationship is restored. I'm excited about next Monday because I really want to talk about forgiveness and the restoration of a relationship. Okay, so I wonder if our technicians are ready. Are you able to give us some of the responses? How well did it go? How well did they you answer? Let me recap at least some of the questions that you asked. One of the questions was, how would you rate this presentation? Is it excellent? Okay.
Okay, so we have 50% who says yes to this question, and the other 50 says no.
Okay. So, all right. So we want okay. The technicians is going to give us an update, and they will let you know. So the question was, how would you create this? How would you rate this presentation? Is it excellent and good, average, and fair? 50% said excellent, 50% said good. Okay, so we want to thank you for your feedback. Then the other question was, how would you handle a family conflict? How would you handle a family conflict?
How was it? Is it excellent?
Yes, they said excellent for the first question. The other one is, how would you not handle a conflict? Be hard on the problem and not the person. Be hard on the problem, not the person. Use an I statement. Give the benefit of the doubt. Say nothing, but keep grudges. Well, of course, I think 100% yes, got it right. Okay, they say be hard on the problem and not on the person. Okay, use I statements. Give the benefit of the doubt. In fact, there was only one. Remember, the question was, how would you not handle a conflict? Okay, how would you not handle a conflict? Then the last one was, which is not a cause of conflict. Okay, which is not the cause of conflict. So let me, as a technician.
And the responses should have been either finance, child discipline, communication, or sex.
No, I think I left out the sex part. Okay, yes. I think we put it here. Finance, child discipline, communication, and sex. And of course, which is not a cause of conflict, not a cause. I hope you got that right, okay? Which is not a cause, not which is a cause. And I think everything there is a cause of conflict. You can have conflict over finance, child discipline, communication, or sex. So whichever one you put there, you'd have did right. Well, sorry, not the cause of conflict. I guess one of the responses should be none, and I think that's my mistake not putting that in for you. But we'll correct that, and I trust that you have an enjoyable evening. So thanks very much. This was not a trick question. I just guess it was missed a little bit. Okay. The question is not which is a cause. Everything there is a cause of conflict, because which one is not a cause of conflict? So you missed that one a little bit. Okay. Yes.
So we're looking forward to being with you next Monday. Family conversation. Please remember to tell a friend, and you spread the good news. Inform other people so that they too can be blessed and enjoy happy family.
Time spent, the information imparted. We pray, dear Lord, that the information provided here will be utilized to improve the relationship in families, and even when there are challenges in the family, we'll use wholesome ways to resolve these issues and come up to amicable solutions so that the families can be better. Lord, help each person to know that conflict doesn't destroy a family. It can be opportunities to set boundaries. It can be a growth opportunity for families. Mm-hmm. Help them to use these as stepping stones for greater success in the relationship rather than it being a platform for embattlement of each other. Help that, Lord, that your people will grow as a result, and that what the enemy intended for harm will be turned for good. Bless each family member, those who are experiencing frequent conflicts. Lord, may you minimize these conflicts in the home. Those who have wholesome relationship, continue to bless them and improve it, move the relationship from good to great. And we ask that you will intervene in families to bring your peace into it. This is necessary as we come to the closing days of OC history. So may it become a reality in every family, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, let's take some time to thank the St. Lucia Mission for joining us, for joining the family conversation. And we want to thank all those who, shared that information with others. So we are most grateful. Let me thank my family and the other team who are assisting us in getting this technical aspect. And let me thank
the families who've been joining us night after night on this platform, the family conversation.
We need to thank all the followers, okay, of the Family Life Conversation, our regular members, and we're happy for those who joined us this evening. God bless you and have an enjoyable evening.